warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Heshain Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. No signs of SLFP candidate in the presidential race. Government allows foreign airlines to operate domestic flights. News in detail. General Secretary of United People's Freedom Alliance, Mahinda Amravira, claims that his entire party is willing to campaign for Sri Lanka Podujana Perammuna's presidential aspirant Gotabaya Rajapaksa if UPFA's policies are met. Meanwhile, General Secretary Amravira calls all the presidential candidates for one common platform to launch their policies as a way of renewing the political culture. General Secretary of United People's Freedom Alliance, Mahinda Amravira, went on to state that the policies posed by Freedom Alliance are totally in line with the party's interest and are now mere personal rivalries. Mahinda Amravira is also in the positive view that the issues related to the party symbol will be sorted soon, especially at the crucial discussion on this coming Saturday. Parliamentarian Amravira noted the coalition between SLPP and SLFP will be strong if these issues are sorted. Meanwhile, United People's Freedom Alliance parliamentarian Kumaro Velgama has also expressed his desire to contest at the upcoming presidential election if the SLFP avoids the contesting. Commenting on this issue, UPFA General Secretary noted that the UPFA will not back Velgama in such a move. The Cabinet approves to allow Sri Lanka's Civil Aviation Authority to issue temporary licenses to foreign airlines to operate domestic flights. Sri Lanka has not yet given the rights for foreign airlines to operate domestic flights in Sri Lanka through bilateral aviation agreements entered into with other countries. However, as per the latest cabinet decision, Sri Lanka's Civil Aviation Authority will issue one-year temporary operating licenses to foreign airlines that are interested in flying within Sri Lanka. Thus, foreign airlines will operate only to and from Jaffna, Batticaloa, Colombo, Ratmalana and Matala international airports. The proposal was made by the Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation Arjuna Ranatunga to authorize the Civil Aviation Authority of Sri Lanka to grant internal air transport rights to foreign airlines interested in operating commercial aviation services. Foreign Secretary Ravinatha Ariyasinghe states that development cannot be attained without peace since it is an impetus for stability, inclusivity and socio-economic growth. The Foreign Ministry Secretary made these statements last Monday addressing the 74th United Nations General Assembly.
There can be no development without peace. Peace is a catalyst for stability, inclusivity and socio-economic growth. For nearly 30 years, my country was one of the worst affected by separatist terrorism long before the fight against terrorism became an international buzz phrase. With the defeat of terrorism in Sri Lanka in 2009, for nearly a decade, we experienced an unprecedented peace dividend. However, on 21st April, Easter Sunday this year, this peace was shattered by a heinous attack in Sri Lanka, which took the lives of over 250 of our citizens and foreign nationals and injured many other hundreds. This was an act of radical extremist terrorists who were inspired by and claimed allegiance to ISIS. This challenged the pluralistic processes in Sri Lanka of normalization, reconciliation and development arduously built since the end of the separatist conflict. Despite the attempts of these terrorists to destroy the country's social fabric, the resilience and trust between our communities and the law enforcement authorities ensured that citizens themselves warned of impending attacks and assisted in apprehending the culprits.
Foreign Secretary Ravinatha Ariyasinghe also highlighted that combating terrorism must go hand in hand with protecting human rights.
The events of Easter Sunday bombing also taught us that fighting terrorism must go hand in hand with protecting human rights. One cannot be compromised for the other. This very delicate balance has often been elusive, with states veering towards one extreme or the other, applying double standards to similar situations and often politicizing these issues. We as a nation have found ourselves up to the task of overcoming these challenges posed by the violent extremism of Easter Sunday. The citizenry was secured within a relatively short period of time and law and order restored. Our institutions asserted themselves, each in their role to ensure the people, communities, and societies as a whole were able to feel safe again. In fact, the post-Easter Sunday attack period has proved to be a litmus test on Sri Lanka's resolve to adhere to human rights standards while fighting terrorism, and also determine the strengths and shortcomings of the democratic institutions that have been strengthened in recent years. In this context, it is necessary to develop the critical thinking capacity of youth, strengthen community bonds, inculcate a sense of civic duty, and build community resilience to mitigate the effects and influences of extremist ideologies conducive to terrorism that may escape the eye of the law enforcement authorities.
Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break. Welcome back after the break. The Department of Census and Statistics announces that the Colombo Consumer Price Index for all items for the month of September 2019 was 131.1, and it records an increase of 1.0 index points in comparison to the previous month. The CCPI for all items for the month of September 2019 was shown as 131.1, and it also records an increase of 1.0 index points, that is 0.75 percentage points compared to the month of August 2019, for which the index was 130.1. The Department of Census and Statistics said that the numbers represent an increase of expenditure value by around 593 rupees in the market basket. Increases in value change were reported for sea fish, vegetables, banana, big onion, rice, chicken, milk powder, coconuts, chili powder, dry fish, garlic and curry powder. Among non-food groups, increases in value change were reported for education, clothing and foodfare, and miscellaneous goods and services. The year-on-year inflation as measured by CCPI is 5.0% in September 2019, and inflation calculated for August 2019 was 3.4%. YoY inflation of food group has increased from -2.8% in August 2019 to 3% in September 2019, while that of non-food group has decreased from 6.2% in August 2019 to 5.7% in September 2019. The Cabinet Ministers cleared a draft law aimed at ending controls on land ownership imposed on listed companies with foreign ownership. The Cabinet has approved changes to the Land Restrictions and Alienation Amendment Bill exempting listed companies from the law. In 2014, barely 3 years after expropriating several domestic and foreign companies and undermining the FDI landscape, the government introduced new legislation to further block foreign investors from owning land in Sri Lanka amid rising nationalism. The Land Restrictions and Alienation Amendment Bill ended full freehold of Sri Lankan citizens by ending their right to sell land to anyone they wished. After independence from British rule, property rights of both citizens and foreign investors had been systematically violated through several expropriations of both business and land, unlike fast-growing nations in East Asia. The Cabinet of Ministers who met last Tuesday has approved changes to the Land Restrictions and Alienation Amendment Bill exempting listed companies from the law. Anyway, the changes still have to be passed by the Parliament. Science communicator Nalaka Gunawardena states that Privacy in Data Protection Act is not properly understood even by the professionals of our country. Nalaka Gunawardena made these policy recommendations last week addressing a public discussion on digital policies of Sri Lanka.
One thing I see as a challenge is that at user level, privacy as a concept is not clearly understood, even by many professionals. And that leads to either excessively trying to clamp down data and information, denying access to researchers, for example, which concerns me, and also not knowing the levels of data. Now, in the draft act, there is a very clear proposed. I want to just read it out. I quote, it does not apply, the act does not apply to any data which has been irreversibly anonymized in such a manner that causes the individual to be unidentified. Now, I don't think we appreciate the value of data for study, analysis, and research. And we can, in the absence of public awareness, clarity, and all that, we can lead to a situation where we lock down too much data needlessly in trying to protect and safeguard privacy. So we need to handle this very carefully. While on the legislative front we are doing this, we also need to build that user awareness sufficiently, because otherwise it can lead to what I call a privacy paranoia.
Stay tuned for stock updates right after this break. And welcome back after the break. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all-share price index dropped 20.43 points to close at 5,677.50, and the S&P SL20 dropped 2.04 points to close at 2,744.78. The turnover was 696 million rupees and over 14 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. That's all news for today. Do join us tomorrow with State of Business. Until then, take care. Good night.